Welcome to the Digital Imaging channel. I'm Will, and today we're going to talk about the 7 things that you need to know about microfilm. And why do you need to know about microfilm? Well, it's all over the place. It's hidden in basements and in the archive caves of organizations throughout the country and the world. And when you find it, you'll want to tell us about it. We love microfilm and all that goes into that. But first, you need to know what it is and a few other things so that when you do find it, you have an idea of what to do with it, what you can do with it, and how you can move forward. So let's get right into it. First thing to know about microfilm is that it does have various types. We say microfilm as kind of a catch-all. So most people know the phrases microfilm or microfiche. Microfilm is the most commonly used, and that does refer to a specific type. Really, the term is microform, which encompasses microfilm, microfiche, and aperture cards. But microfilm is just a term that's used to kind of encompass all of them a lot. If you're especially not in the industry, you just kind of think everything's microfilm. That's fine. What we're going to do here is take a look at a couple different types. So this is the easiest way to figure out if you have microfilm. It's on a reel like this, or it might come in a cartridge like this. And if you have that, you can also just pull out a little strip. And that's the key thing about microfilm. It's a big roll of a strip of microfilm. And this one is actually duplex, 2 images per frame with blips, those little markings there. So even within microfilm, there are various types. Not going to dive into that right now, but this is microfilm. Next will be microfiche. And what you have here is a jacket microfiche. And it's called a jacket microfiche because it's actually, there are 5 little channels here, or jackets, that you cut the microfilm. So this is originally a roll of microfilm, and you cut the strips and you put it into the microfiche channels. So that's jacket microfiche. Within microfiche, there are multiple types. I'm not going to get into that, but it's good to know that there are various types within that subtype, you could call it. And the third type of microfilm, microform, is aperture cards. What we have right here. Easiest way to tell an aperture card is that it's in this cardboard kind of cutout, and there's a hole here, an aperture, that holds a piece of microfilm. So this is an aperture card, and technically this is Hollerith aperture card because these hole punches include the index information for this image. So those are the 3 main types of microfilm and the variations of them. Next, another thing to know is that microfilm, if stored properly, can have a 500-year shelf life, roughly. It's a great medium for storing data. That's why it was used for so long once it was invented. Really, the heyday of microfilm was like I'd say the 40s or so through the 90s-ish. A lot of microfilms created because you can put a ton of information on these small little mediums and it'll last a long time. It's not as hard to preserve like paper, and paper's bulky. You could have large documents take up a ton of room, they get fragile, could burn in a fire, whatever. Microfilm, it could still burn in a fire, get flooded or whatever, but it's easy to store because it's so small. On this roll, because you have these little images that are duplex, you could have maybe 5,000 to 10,000 images on this little roll. A standard banker's box of paper holds 2,500 pages. So you can imagine this could theoretically hold about 4 banker's boxes of material. Much more storage friendly. Of course, microfiche has fewer images on them, but still very easy to store. This is probably about 80 or so images. Very easy to store a lot of information in a small space. And because of its long shelf life, it's very good for storing important information that you need to keep for a long time. However, if you don't store it properly or you mishandle it, it can deteriorate and decay. And what we're looking at here is, some bad film wasn't stored properly. You don't want that to happen. That's gross. You go down, there's some, it's called vinegar syndrome because the microfilm actually starts to smell like vinegar. Not good. It can affect other rolls of film. Your stuff gets destroyed. Bad news. Move down some more, not stored properly, yuck, gross. You don't want that happening to your material. So you got to keep it stored properly. Dry conditions, good humidity, good temperature. We have an entire article about that on our webpage. Basically, you don't want your microfilm, your microfiche, your capture cards exposed to a lot of light. You don't want it around other chemicals, like don't store it with paint in a closet. You don't want it in too humid conditions or wet conditions. That can go bad. You want to make sure it's in a nice dry place, stored properly, not in extreme temperatures, high or low, and kept kind of away from other stuff. So if you do that right, it can last a long time and it won't turn into the bad things you just saw. What we have next here is that another thing to know, really. Your microfilm and microfiche and capture cards can be turned into digital images. Again, decades ago, making this stuff was kind of the new thing to do. It made sense. We didn't have the digital technology we have today, so we were trying to figure out, people were trying to figure out how to store information effectively. Well, now we have digitization, electronic files, and whatnot. So a lot of the microfilm that was made is now being converted into an electronic file. And so you can do that. You can scan your microfilm, your microfiche, your capture cards into some sort of electronic format. There are various things you can do. You can make basic PDFs. You might have some system you have at your business, your organization, that you want to scan these files and put them into something like a document management system. And then we have a platform ourselves that we call Digital Reel that was actually made for microfilm. And it's evolved over time, but it was originally made for microfilm. So I'll show you a couple things here. PDFs, you know what PDFs are. PDFs, TIFFs, JPEGs, basic file format, cropped images. Very simple. I mean, we can do that with your microfilm. You can get it easy peasy. If you want something a little more robust, you might want to check out Digital Reel, which is our application. It's a secure hosting application. Then you have the ability to look at your microfilm. You have strips of film there that you can scroll around, just like you're used to now with your physical microfilm. But then you have the ability to select images. You can actually enhance images and make them basically optimal to what you want it to be. You can put microfiche in here too. Here's an actual fiche that is in a digital format. So of course you could go select images, you can change them, export them, do whatever you want. But you have that original context of the microfilm, the microfiche, as the original record existed. That's a critical piece that you're not going to get from a PDF or a TIFF or something like that, is that you're not going to see the original context of what the record looked like. Digital Reel allows you to do that. So you do have options to scan and convert your microfilm into electronic records, into digital files. It's really your choice, but you do have options. This is number 5 on the list out of 7. Microfilm is still being created today. We create some of it, various methods to create microfilm. The original method is you actually take photographs of the original hard copy record, and then you process film and you make the microfilm or the microfiche, whichever direction it is. That's the old style way. The other way is to take digital images and then turn those digital images into hard copy microfilm. We have an application called Microfilm Digital Archive, which does that exact process. We have a hosted platform. You upload your digital images, we store them there, and then create microfilm when you're ready to go. Some agencies, public agencies mostly, like county departments or maybe some city and state departments, they are required to keep eye-readable copies. So they may have either, let's say they scanned some hard copy paper records back in the day and now they have a digital copy. Well, if they want to get rid of the physical version, they can't unless they make, let's say, microfilm. But if you have, let's say, hundreds of official records books, that takes up a lot more space than a couple rolls of microfilm. So they may have the digital copy, they want to get rid of the books, but they are required to keep a hard copy. You can make microfilm. So there may be reasons why you need it. Not as much is being created today as a couple decades ago, but it is still being created today. Microfilm is an unchangeable format. Now I say that with a grain of salt because pretty much anything can be changed in some way. I mean, I could take this film and start cutting it up. Well, it's been changed. But what I mean is that this record on here is I can't just quickly go in and like a Word document or something, or go in and change something, save it, and then now it's a new version and no one knows it was changed, something like that. This is theoretically unchangeable as it exists. Now, as I mentioned, you could go in here, cut something, add another piece if you wanted to create microfilm, switch something out here. But for a reasonable person's perspective, it's an unchangeable format, so it's a great copy to go back to if you need some sort of original record. And lastly, something to know about microfilm, it was invented in 1839, which is a very long time ago, and it doesn't seem like it would be created that long ago, but it was by a guy named John Dancer. So just a little tidbit to know, it's been around for, well, that's almost 200 years now, so it's been around for a long time. The heyday was middle of the 20th century, but it is still being created today in lesser volumes, lower volumes. There's a ton of it out there, more than people realize, and there's a lot you can do with it. You can keep it as it is. You can store it off-site if you just need the original record. You can scan to digital. Whatever makes sense for your organization, that's what's going to happen. But if you find it, now you know what it is, and you do have options when it comes to either keeping this or turning it into a digital file and kind of moving it into that electronic age. So, hope you enjoyed the video. Just a quick one about the 7 things you should know about microfilm, and we hope to see you again next time.